can declare victory on some level. The internet is a success. We have, this is the 40th anniversary of the internet, more or less, the 20th anniversary of the web. This grand experiment is, there's still much work to be done, but, we won. We won. This is awesome. This changed the world. What I'm going to talk about is what happens next. The internet exists in the world of bits. It's a digital distribution network, but we live in the world of atoms. The economy is largely about stuff, and there is, as revolutionary as the internet has been, there is many revolutions yet to be done in the world of stuff. And so what I'd like to talk about is a little bit of the application of the web's models to everything else. And my thesis is sort of can be expressed in two sentences, that if the last decade was about finding new social and innovation models on the web, and those of you who've been following that know just how amazing and transformative that has been, the next decade will be about applying those lessons to the rest of the world. We have learned a lot about ourselves online. We have learned a lot about culture. We've learned a lot about society. We've learned a lot about innovation models. We have questioned and reconsidered a lot of assumptions we made about how companies run, how innovation happens, how products get to market. The notion of association, affiliation, identity, all those kind of things have been shaken, and we have excitingly discovered that there is another way to do things. Those lessons are now. It is now time to extend those. Broadly, the internet, as I see it, was driven by two things: the democratization of the tools of production, and the democratization of the tools of distribution. On the internet, the tools of production were. So I'm in the magazine business, and we make information and we propagate it, and we run factories. These factories are called printing plants. We have fleets of trucks. We have access to newsstands and shelf space, etc. We had an oligopoly over 20th century media attention because the barriers to entry were very, very high. You really needed to have an industrial-sized operation to be in the mass media business. Starting with the desktop publishing, the laser printer, personal computer, and then ultimately the internet, websites, and all that, suddenly the tools of production, anybody could make content, anybody could make a publication, and once you added the internet to that, anybody could distribute it to a global audience. And so by democratizing the tools of production and distribution, we created this extraordinary long tail phenomena of everything that's out there. And the good news is that we got a rich, diverse, and extraordinarily vital global culture out of this. The bad news is that we, monopolists of the 20th century, have lost our pricing power. Shed no tears. We'll find a way to regain profitability. The analogies in physical stuff are as follows. Tools of production of physical stuff are prototyping tools, and this toothed beast right here is a 3D printer called a MakerBot. I have one. It costs $700. 5 years ago, they cost $25,000. I don't know how many of you remember the launch of the first Apple Mac and the laser printer that came with it. And I believe it cost $6,000 at the time. So we are right where that laser printer was in 1984. In those days, if you kind of cast your mind back, you're like, I don't need a laser printer. I don't have massive printing needs. And maybe then a couple people said, I'm going to do desktop publishing and do a newsletter, and I need a laser printer. And then somebody else said, I'm going to go into, I'm going to be, sort of printing out my homework assignments for the school, et cetera, replacing the mimeograph. Anyway, today we all have printers in our home. The question is, why do you need a printer has been answered, whether it's photographs or documents or emails or whatever. MapQuest directions. We democratize the printer such that every home has one. That's a two-dimensional printing device. A two-dimensional image on the screen becomes a two-dimensional image on paper. We're now doing exactly the same thing with 3 dimensions, and the pricing curve is moving even faster. You can create a 3-dimensional vector geometry on the screen and output it in in atoms, plastic, various sorts of resins. Now, what's interesting, and there's lots and lots of other digital prototyping tools like this. There's CNC routers, there are laser cutters, plasma cutters, you name it. Now, there's nothing new about cool tools in your garage. What's unique about this cool tool and this class of cool tools is that they're digital. They start on a screen. They start with a digital file, and this file is instantiated locally in ABS plastic at a certain resolution. Not great, I hasten to add. But what's important is they can also be instantiated globally by uploading that same file to a factory. And this is the democratization of the tools of production distribution. We have now connected the circuit that creates an industrial revolution. The internet took the personal computer, added the internet, and you changed the world. We are now taking personal prototyping, digital prototyping tools, connecting them to factories, and we will once again change the world. This is Alibaba. It is a site you can go to that basically is a matching service with Chinese factories. 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if you wanted to get something made in China, and I lived in China at the time, what you typically had to do is you had to go to China. And you would then, through introductions or some sleuthing process, you would find a factory, you would tour the factory, you would meet them, you would drink with them. There would be much more drinking. Some relatively disgusting foods would be forced upon you as a kind of a hazing ritual. And if all went well, you would then do a deal. And this required there may be a letter of credit, bank transfers, etc. But then you would be in the manufacturing business. Now you just click. You click. You go at Alibaba. You search. I want to get DC brushed motors of a certain dimension, certain shaft length. Who makes those kind of motors? They have an IM client that translates in real time between English and Chinese. They are on all the time. You say, "Do you make this motor? Can you make this motor?" They say, "Yes, we already make it. Here's what it costs in various volumes." "No, we can't make it," or "We make something like it, and we can custom make it for you." And you say, "Yes, fine, whatever." They take PayPal. They take credit cards. And you upload your specs. If it's a fabrication thing, you upload your CAD/CAM and your SketchUp, your SolidWorks file, whatever. 10 days later, there's a sample that shows up on your doorstep by FedEx. You're like, "Looks good. I'll order 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 10 million." Type, click, 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 poof. You've now got robots in China to work for you by simply clicking. You don't have to go anywhere. And what's amazing about this moment is that they're now scale free. They will work at the mass and they will work at the micro. They will do 10 million and they will do 10. It's different price. You get slightly different service, but they're now impedance matched to the individual. They're impedance matched to small business. They can work for anybody. You don't need to be a big company. You don't need to have a letter of credit. You don't need to go to China to get Chinese factories to make your stuff. This is the Internet of Things, right? This is the moment where that sort of blog turns into micro-manufacturing. And it is, I believe, going to be just as empowering, if not more so.